Welcome everyone. This is Tracy Una Wagner with Versatile Inspirations, and today we're going to be discussing the thinning veil, what it is, what it means, kind of where it came from, that whole thing, and how you can work with it. So let me screen share and we'll get started. Okay, so today we're talking about the thinning veil. Right now, what we're in is during this time of the thinning of the veil. It is actually October, so it's headed into Halloween and Samhain and Day of the Dead or Dia de Muertos. This is actually the time that has been celebrated as a time when we can connect and honor the dead in many different types of cultures and religious aspects or spiritual aspects. So we're going to talk about that and what it really means. Halloween. This is a time when you've probably thought or have experienced going out trick-or-treating and dressing up as whatever kind of character you want to dress up as. But this is a fun time. This is the time when it's kind of darker in the Northern Hemisphere. What we're experiencing is the fall time. So the days are getting shorter. Dark is coming upon us a lot quicker. The falling of the leaves, more of a time when we're going to be going inside and coming indoors and experiencing indoors. The last of the light is out, so we're kind of honoring that darkness. It hasn't always been called Halloween, although All Hallows Eve is the replacement for something called Samhain or Samhain. And this is the time where people that were honoring the earth, such as witches and pagans and others, really thought about and honored the dead when, witches weren't looked highly upon, and pagans and another religious sect decided that it was time that they took over and got rid of the ideas of the pagans and the witches. Then this time became known as Halloween or All Hallows Eve. And there again, around that time, the 31st, that is All Saints Eve, because the next day is Saints Day. And so I know it gets complicated, but it's kind of how the progression went. There's also a religious idea of Day of the Dead, which kind of goes along the same time period. It's very interesting. And that is actually called Dia de los Muertos. And they celebrate that by honoring the dead at this time as well. So it's very interesting, right? That we've got all this time, these different cultures, these different sects of religion or spiritual thinking, or just ideologies that coincide with this idea or this thought of honoring the dead. And so with that, what happens is when we're thinking about these things, it begins to manifest itself. It begins to ramp up, if you will. So it's just like Mercury retrograde, which is weird that this year we're having Mercury retrograde begins on the day of Halloween. But there's this ramping up that you feel different through that time frame. It's just like full moons and new moons. You feel different maybe a week before the full moon or the new moon. You start feeling the energies. If you're empathic or you're sensitive to those vibrations, then you start feeling it. The same goes for the Day of the Dead or Halloween or Samhain. It starts ramping up, and because of that, it's considered that time frame, the thinning of the veil. So that time in between, and I like to say it's usually begins around the 9/9 or September 9th period. For some reason, it just seems like that's a portal time when it just starts it starts the process for me. And for me, it continues through all the holiday times and into the new year. So that just like the ramping up of this beautiful time of the thinning of the veil, the going out of that time takes a while too to get out of it. But it's that thinning of the veil that allows the communication of spirit and other worlds and dimensions to become easier, more effortless. And it's because of our ancestors and because of this thought that brings about this ability, this thinning of the veil, this um, way for us to be able to communicate with our deceased loved ones, with the angels easier, with spirit in general, the other layers, if you will, of the different worlds, the different these, those, and that's. And it's just a beautiful time. It really is. So I want to start this off by asking you, do you believe in the law of attraction? Do you believe that what you think about, you can actually bring into your being? Now, I ask this because manifesting is a part of this whole experience. Now, I didn't ask you if you thought you were good at it. I didn't ask you if you always were able to manifest what you think about. What I asked you is, do you believe in it? Do you believe that you're able to think about things and bring those things into your life? Whether it always happens for you or not, the idea that you believe in it is half the battle. You're halfway there to experiencing this thinning of the veil. You're halfway there to acknowledging the fact that during this beautiful time, because our ancestors help pave the way, we are able to experience this thinning of the veil and speak with our deceased loved ones, our ancestors, the angels, easier and more effortless because of the collective consciousness. The collective consciousness has manifested this into being, and so we're able to reap the rewards. We're also able to, as we go through the process of learning how to communicate with spirit, we're actually helping that collective consciousness in being easier and more effortless in doing so. So it's a beautiful way to give back and to receive at the same time. It's just a wonderful thing to be able to do that. So, do you believe in the law of attraction? Do you believe in manifesting? And even if you do just a little bit, you are halfway there to speaking with spirit. So, what I want to show you is this idea of being able to be in one place. We're here in physical form, but knowing that we actually have part of ourselves still in spirit. So the part of us that is here in the physical world is that manifestation of our full being, of our complete and total divine being. We thought about manifesting here, and this is our form being manifested. Inside of our being, we have our soul self. Our soul is within our being. That when we manifested, we also brought with us our soul self and our energetic being as well, so that we could stay in contact with our spirit self, our self that is still in spirit. So our spirit self is still in spirit, experiencing and doing and being spirit, but we are connected with a tether of sorts to the spirit realm. So that information, our intuition, our abilities can actually transfer between our physical self and our physical realm and our spirit self that is still in spirit. And so that divine connection is always there. It is never cut or severed. We are always one perfect human, one perfect spirit, one perfect, total, complete, divine being, limitless in all ways, except for, our material body. It's just our manifestation. And just like that, just like in the Bible, when they talk about Enoch, just he was and then he wasn't, we do the same thing. When we're done with this manifestation, when we're done with this body, we let this manifestation go, and we're still complete and whole and total there in spirit. So the thinning of the veil takes into account that we still have that ability to see past, to see through the lower vibrations that we're on. We're heavy in this physical world, whereas in spirit, it's higher vibration. And so just like when you look through a veil, this image just really kind of told the story, because as you look through the veil, it looks the same as when you're not looking through the veil. It's just a little bit distorted. It's a little bit, you can't see it as clearly, but it's still there. And that's exactly how we can experience spirit during this time of the thinning of the veil. It's there, and because of the way that we have claimed this time of year as a time to honor those that are in spirit, experience spirit in similar ways. So we can actually acknowledge the fact and see the fact and be validated on the fact that there is that other, that more permanent being, that limitless, divine, eternal being of ourselves. And so with that, there are some ways that we can go about this. And this is where the clairs really come into play. Not only do we have to believe that this is happening, but we have to kind of acknowledge these clairs in order for us to able to get that. Now, some of us, we can just get those feelings and those hits and those angel winks and those spirit winks. We can just get those actually by doing our daily lives. A lot of times somebody will just say they heard something, they saw something, they smelled something, they just knew something, they felt something. And this is all spirit's way of getting our attention, and whether we know it or not. And it could come out of the blue. And if you have started already feeling or sensing or knowing things already, then you're probably sensitive to it and you're open to experiencing this. One of them, more well known, is the act of seeing spirit. So this is called clairvoyance, and clairvoyance is when we can see spirit. When I've done readings and I've worked with other people, a lot of times my seeing will be, and we use our third eye for this kind of work for clairvoyance. So our third eye is located in the forehead region, either between the eyebrows or right above the eyebrows, around in that area. And that's your psychic connection, your spirit connection, as far as being able to see. When I'm doing a reading, a lot of times I will see flashes of images, or maybe something that feels like a video playing. I've seen people actually talking or interacting, and they're in spirit. I also sense when someone is around me, and the way that I sense this is through seeing as well. And so when I see spirit, what it looks like to me is iridescent sparkles. And so sometimes I think my vision, something's wrong with my vision, and that's how I felt at first when I first started seeing it. But it's not. It's actually when I'm in the presence of spirit and they're trying to make themselves known, then what I see are these sparkles, and they're iridescent, sparkly. And so then I know that that spirit is with me. Some people see full body apparitions. So some people will see like full people walking up staircases or right in front of them. But this is a time when our clairvoyance will be kicked into high gear and you may start seeing things out of the corner of your eye, a shadow or movement that when you look back, there's nothing there. Just know that this is probably your clairvoyance kicking in. Hearing and clairaudience. So when you hear something, it's almost like a whisper. It's almost like somebody standing right next to you may say something really quiet in your ear. Now that's one way. Another way that people that are clairaudient hear is like in their head. They'll hear someone or something saying something, either in their own voice or somebody else's voice. So there's that auditory feeling or sense that we get when spirit is around us. Now, I get that sometimes. Most of the time, I'm going to see or I'm going to feel, and we'll get to the feeling in a few minutes. But the hearing, Sylvia Brown, I believe it was, actually, when she would teach people on how to hear spirit, she said a lot of times it sounded like high pitched ringing in your ears. And she said, if you hear that, if you get the sense that, if you're trying to communicate with spirit and you get this ringing in your ear, it's because the vibrations aren't in sync. And because of that, then it's higher pitched because they're higher vibrations. And so all you need to do is ask that they lower their vibration so that you can understand what they're trying to say. And that works as well. I remember when I was really listening to a lot of Sylvia Brown's works and starting to try and do it on my own, that's exactly what I would hear, is a ringing in my ear. And so then I would ask, and so I could hear. I just don't use that sense a lot of times. I don't use clairaudience, but a lot of people do because they can hear things and it validates spirit for them. And so whichever way you choose or that you get the information, because it's a wonderful thing. It's one of your gifts. So feeling, clairsentience. Clairsentience is when you just get a feeling. You may feel like somebody comes up and gives you a hug, or comes and sits next to you, or comes and touches you on the shoulder, or brushes your hair. Especially when in the case of a loved one or angels, you're gonna feel a sense about you. You're going to feel the energy change a lot of times, especially with powerful angels, archangels like Archangel Michael. You're going to feel the energy around you shift. Also with Archangel Jophiel, you'll feel like if there's a lot of chaos or a lot of disturbances around you and you call on Archangel Jophiel, you're going to feel when she's present, because the chaos and that feeling of stress is going to be nullified. It's just going to fade away. So it's very interesting. Now, in the case of a loved one or a friend or family member, a pet, you're going to feel that love that you had for them. You're going to feel it, and you're going to feel it a lot of times in your heart chakra, in that area. Now, some people, if the spirits are around them, you're going to feel it probably on your auric field, on your subtle body or your energetic body. That is a good sensor for you too, about whether there is spirit around you or archangels, anything. So you're going to feel that, especially if you're sensitive in that way, in the feeling department or the clairsentience, you're going to feel that. And this is a beautiful way to be able to acknowledge and validate that they're around you. Knowing and claircognizance. Now, this is a hard one for some people because people think, well, it just popped in my head. It's just something that I just with every fiber of my being, I just know that this is true. So this is claircognizance. And this in and of itself, we probably get it more than what we realize. We probably get that knowing sensation. Sometimes some people feel like it's a deja vu, but it's really just a knowing. It's just that you know that that is true. That is truth. It is 100% your truth, and you feel that it's more than that. You feel that it's an absolute truth. And with that feeling, it it just validates everything for you. It validates this whole idea that we are eternal beings, that we came from spirit and we go back to spirit. This is just a manifestation, a physical embodiment of your spirit, of your soul. And so, with that, we're just experiencing this lifetime, and our spirit self is always in that divine, limitless, eternal place. The best way I can describe claircognizance, or just knowing, especially during this time, is there again, if you're, say, walking down the road and you take that same path that you used to take with your loved one, a lot of times you're just going to know that they are still walking that same path with you. They're there by your side. They're there as you take each step. You can feel them, you can sense them, you just know beyond the shadow of a doubt that they are there with you, and you just know it. And that knowing is heightened during this time as well. And so, with that, you may even, by just that process of knowing and having that claircognizance be something that you are sensitive to, you will probably end up just being able to see and hear and possibly feel that person again. You may see the outline, you may see the shadow, you may see them just as they were. You may hear them talking to you as you're walking. You may feel them if they put their arm around you or hold your hand. You may be able to do all of these. And that is a wonderful validation during this time. Don't discount that. Know also that you have the ability to tap into any one of these clairs or all of them. All we have to do is believe that you can, then just acknowledge the fact that that's what you want to do. Ask your angels, ask spirit, that maybe instead of just hearing you, I'd like to see you. Instead of just seeing you, I'd like to feel you. Instead of all of these other things or none of these things, I would really just like to be validated and know, just without a shadow of a doubt, that what I'm thinking and what I'm maybe feeling is true. And just by asking, especially during this time of the thinning of the veil, a lot of times, and if you're open, you're going to be able to receive those things. A lot of times, when our deceased loved ones, or our family, or our friends, our animals pass, we feel like a piece of us has just kind of been taken away. But during this time of the thinning of the veil, we feel a lot of times whole. We feel the presence of those people, and it makes us feel whole again. And a lot of times, for people that have gone through a very deep grieving period, during this time, they may feel like their their heart is healing a little bit, because the veil is so thin between the two worlds that you're able to touch and get into contact with those other beings, with our loved ones, our friends, our family, our animals. We're just able to feel that wholeness once again. The one thing that I really want people to understand, I want you to understand, is when we have the faith and the trust and that we believe in this time of year, that is when we can manifest these beautiful experiences. And our ancestors have paved the way for us to do so. Other cultures, other religious ideas, or rituals, they have brought to us this ability of this thinning of the veil, and that we can benefit from that by being able to tap into speaking and feeling and knowing and trusting and hearing spirit once again. We can validate our experiences, and it can be easier for us to get the guidance that we would like, to get the sense that life is eternal. We can get that feeling during this time. And it's a beautiful experience. It's a wonderful validation that life goes on. And so I hope you're able to really tap into this time and really work with the thinning of the veil. All I ask is that you try to be open, just be open and to experiencing, or even just hearing, seeing, knowing, or feeling your loved ones in spirit. All right, let me stop share. Wonderful. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate it. I hope you go out and make this time of the thinning of the veil just a most beautiful experience. Be open to receiving. See what comes forward. And if you would like, just sit and meditate and think of ways in which you would like to interact. Would you like to see? Would you like to feel? Would you like to hear? Would you just like to know that life is eternal? It's a wonderful, wonderful time. Next week, I will be talking about ways in which we can go about speaking with spirit. It will be a lot of fun. So I hope to see you then. As always, I'm sending you and yours love, light, and eternal blessings. Take care.